I think we're live on YouTube, right? Let me just make sure that's correct. But I think we're live. Hey guys, it's Dennis here. And today I have a very special guest. It's Evan Shapiro from the US. And I read an interesting article about you, not about you, but about Bitcoin's stolen revolution, which you published on CoinDesk, which I found very interesting. And basically today I want to talk a little bit about, Bitcoin stolen revolution. I want to talk a little bit about you, what you do in crypto. Maybe for the audience, it's mainly Germans, but for the people who don't know you, just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself, what you do and how you got into crypto.
Thanks. Yeah. So I'm Evan. So I run a cryptocurrency startup. We're building a new protocol called Coda that is backed instead of by a big blockchain with a tiny ZK snark. This is really great for decentralization, and the snark brings along a lot of privacy and easy verifiability and scaling features to the chain. I got into the space like, let's see. So I guess like in high school, I was like, we had found out about Bitcoin. It was like probably 2010, 2011. And
high school, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was early. It was early. I didn't actually mine anything, which was probably dumb, but I knew about it and was following all the tech. Whatever, it's dumb, but yeah. So we were following all the things in cryptocurrency. We were looking at all the new altcoins coming out. You know, people would tweak a constant and then launch a new chain. At the time, all very exciting. And so me and my co-founder then were actually friends from high school. So we were both like digging into the stuff and really learning about it. And
but how did you come across Bitcoin in high school? Did you find it online? Did someone talk to you about it?
I must have found it online because I was like at the time starting to get really deep into programming and computer science.
Okay.
And I was just like, kind of scouring the internet for like learning all about the different things that exist, like how does BitTorrent work, what is Tor, like all these different pieces of software that like kind of made up like the peer-to-peer internet. And I think once you're on like that thread, you find out, oh, there's this new one called Bitcoin that just came out. And then you learn about all the way it works, proof of work and everything, and you're like, wow, like that's really cool. I didn't even know about like Paxos and like the history of decentralized systems then, but like I knew this was like a really cool addition to that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go. No, you weren't finished, right?
I was just gonna say like so my co-founder Izzy went separate ways for college. He went to go do math and cryptography stuff, and I went to go do computer science. But we had both kept up in cryptocurrency and with each other during the time. So like after I finished my college and he went to Berkeley to do a PhD in cryptography, we kind of got back together and we were thinking about where cryptocurrency was versus like, this kind of, high school time, like so many years ago, and like where the space was now. It was like 2017, everyone was fighting about the block size and SegWit and like, what are we going to do? And we're, it's like this whole thing. And we were like, wow, like this technology is really cool, but like, it's not going the direction that like, I could kind of imagine it. And that led us to starting to think about the application of the cool cryptography work as he was learning about with ZK snarks to this whole verifiability scaling thing on Bitcoin. And then we started really digging in.
What's your take on the scaling debate? Is it, do you still, are you a big blocker? Are you a small blocker? Do you care at all?
I'm actually a small blocker. I think like, if we are going to stick to the architecture provided by Bitcoin, we got to keep the block size somewhere where everyone can use it. Like that's kind of the whole point of the technology from my perspective. If we like start having 100 megabyte blocks, like it's not the same software. It's like very different system.
Okay. So, and that was something that really caught my eye in the article, because you said that Bitcoin, I mean, one topic of discussion that's always on a small block, a big block. I mean, we got a few camps now with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, and BTC, obviously. And you talked about in your article about the utopia of decentralization, really, that we are not really, it's not really decentralized, and
Yeah.
that the people having control over Bitcoin, they have different incentives basically than the average guy. So well, what makes you say that Bitcoin isn't decentralized?
Yeah, I mean, okay. This is like, it's like a little bit controversial, I guess, but like, I think that no matter how you set the block size, you're just deciding the rate at which the chain grows, and how big the chain is going to determine who can use it. So whether you're, I think, I know this is a little controversial, but whether you're a big blocker or a small blocker, like it's heading in the same direction. It's heading towards these chains being really, really huge.
Yeah.
And what I worry about is that being in a world where not only are the miners more centralized because there's just, you know, hyper efficient ASICs that run the chain that are in select regions of the world that have cheap electricity, like that's already concerning to me. But then on top of that, you have like the actual ability to download the chain mediated by people that have the resources to do so. And you have to go talk to them if you want to access Bitcoin. So this is like the thing that is concerning to me, is like, this technology, how will it exist in the future, and how will people use it? Because it can go either way, I think.
So what do you think Bitcoin will be used for in the future? I mean, if I mean, I personally, I like big blocks. You know, I think if it's going to be used by enterprises and by millions of people, billions of people, we need bigger blocks. But I mean, you can argue for both sides. But what's really, how do you see Bitcoin going? Do you see it as digital gold that just being used basically to make big transfers, or have a second layer solutions?
I think, like, yeah, there'll be multiple in the world we're heading towards now. There'll be multiple cryptocurrencies. I think Bitcoin will be digital gold. I think like it's like doing a really good job at that use case. But like, I think digital gold brings along a lot of the things for regular gold. Like, it's mediated by, like, you know, people who effectively have big vaults that like hold gold. Like, you know, regular people don't deal in gold anymore. Like, it's not a thing. I think that like, if Bitcoin becomes digital gold, which I think is where it's going, that's the world it's going to be. And it's going to look very different than like today. It's going to be like, you know, there'll be like a consortium of like people who manage Bitcoin, and they determine the future of the chain, and individuals don't really have a way into that. It's just kind of run by these companies that are making a profit from, like, you know, some margin on the side and the operation of Bitcoin. And then maybe that's really cool. Like, maybe that's like a cool thing that's been built, but like, I think it misses like the original spirit of like why I thought the space was really interesting. It's at that point, it's like, great, like we built like this like big financial tool for big companies. Like, maybe some people got rich, like cool, but like, I don't think just like perpetuating a cycle of some people just getting rich off a new technology is like what I'm interested in personally. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen? I mean, the block reward is decreasing every 4 years, and I mean the fees we saw in 2017 when there was lots of hype, the fees spiked, and the block reward is going to keep reducing every 4 years. And I mean, everyone says, throws around the number 2100, so in approximately a long time in the future, which isn't really relevant to us, but the majority of Bitcoin will be mined in, I don't know, 10 years, maybe something
Yeah,
around
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So what's the incentive for the miners later on if if the limit of transaction is capped at around 500,000 transactions? Are the fees going to be high? Is that the only incentive?
Yeah, I think it's even more concerning because, like, never mind 2400, like I think 2024 and 2028 already bring like the block reward's getting pretty low at that point. Like, I start to wonder about like if that's enough to secure the chain. And then I think we end up in one of two worlds. I think world one is that the fees have to go up. And in that world, the only transactions that are done on chain are kind of like these consolidation transactions where you have most of the activity happening through like third parties, like, you know, the Coinbases and Binances of the world, who like run payment layers and like move Bitcoin around where it's not really Bitcoin. It's like, you know, synthetic Bitcoin that they like manage on their own, maybe private chain or their own infrastructure. And then they consolidate back to the chain with massive fees. And this world only works, I think, if Bitcoin in the next few years manages to, like, you know, 10x or 100x from where it is now, which seems plausible. But like, in this world, you have mega transactions on chain. The regular people just, like, you know, move on to like these private centrally managed chains. So I'll stop there, but that's world one. I can go to world two as well. I think world two is that we kind of realized that, oh, the hash rate keeps dropping, but the activity is not going up. There's kind of a mismatch there where like maybe we're headed for like, the crash towards zero of Bitcoin hash rate, as like the fees are not enough to keep up with the amount of security that the chain needs. I think in that world, there's a very strong argument then for we need to increase the block rewards on Bitcoin. I think that like that becomes really important because you need the hash rate to go up. And then you end up with a fork where it's like world one is like lower hash rate, but like the number of blocks is not going to increase. It's maybe a smaller thing, which is probably cool. And then the world number two, you end up with like this fork where it's like miners need more block rewards. We're gonna like, continue the block rewards at least for another 10 years or something. We'll see where that goes, where that gets us.
So you think that there's going to be a change in the protocol? I mean, it looks like, I mean, you have to change the protocol. I mean, I've seen talk about maybe adding inflation to Bitcoin, having more coins and stuff like that. And I'm personally, that's why I think scaling on chain is the way to go, because I think that's it's a very realistic possibility that the fees won't be enough for the miners to secure the network. And what's really going to happen? Do you think that that could create a problem for Bitcoin, or do you think Bitcoin is strong enough to survive that? If they change it, is it still Bitcoin? That's the question, right?
I mean, I think like it's strong enough to survive that. I think there'll be a fork, and then once you have a fork, then one fork will be original Bitcoin, and another fork will be like the Bitcoin that has high hash rate. But I think that's a really interesting conversation, because if you're like a Coinbase, a Binance of the world, if you're like running a payments processor, you're like hash rate's really important to you. You're looking at that for the security of the chain. You might kind of be forced to default into like the Bitcoin cache of security, if I could call it that, and not the Bitcoin OG. And that'll bring a lot of users along with it, like because people use Bitcoin mostly through those services, not through directly running a node.
Do you think that is a concern? I mean, if you look at how Bitcoin started, it was supposed to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash, and basically, I don't know how much peer-to-peer is really left. I mean, you talk about Binance, you look at Coinbase, you look at BitMEX, all those leverage trading stuff, and these are the guys getting rich. It's the middleman getting rich in crypto these days, and I don't know if that's the revolution Satoshi wanted, really, right?
I would agree, yeah.
So maybe it's a different coin then. Ethereum, I don't know.
I mean, this is like, I've been thinking about this, and this is where I end up, is like, I feel like these are like the paths that are available to us. And the only one that Bitcoin really keeps the peer-to-peer, like, original spirit, I think, at least in my mind, is the one where it's a smaller community, sort of more like a BitTorrent or a Tor, as a fork of like the big, institutional fork. And like, I guess like when I saw this technology, I was really excited because I thought this could be like something that would matter to everyone, that like, would come to be like a really positive effect for everyone, and not just like a nerfed version for like rich people, and then like the normal version that like techies can use.
But Bitcoin is basically for the rich, right? If you look at the fees, even if the fees are just $1 or $2, if you go into the poorer countries, Southeast Asia somewhere, or Africa or South America, I mean, they're not going to pay $2. I mean, maybe they're going to do it to save money, but they're not going to transact in it. So it's really hard. It's I think we are at a crossroads really to see what's going to happen. I mean, if you look at the speed of internet and everything, sure, scaling on chain in that perspective could make sense, but sure, there are going to be big companies running the network, and but I don't see it that much different from today, because you can't just get into Bitcoin and mine Bitcoin. I mean, it's big business with hundreds of millions of investment. I don't know how much you have to spend, and I mean, it's a crazy race if you think about it. I don't follow it that much, the technical mining aspect, but Bitmain is basically launching I don't know how many new versions of their miner every year, and in order to be in that game, you already have to be a big player. And
Yeah, totally. I remember when I think it was Litecoin came out with like their more CPU friendly mining. Like I was actually able to like mine some like on like my computer, and that was like awesome. Like it's like no, that's like not the world anymore.
Yeah, see, that's something, let's say we have money for the world, like Bitcoin. Would governments or institutions or big business use a network which is not being run professionally? It's being run on your home computer, but basically, is that reliable enough or not? I don't know.
That's the thing, yeah, because I think it's like a huge win for Bitcoin that institutionalization is happening. It's like awesome in a lot of ways, but like I think it's coming at the same time as like a peer-to-peerization, which is upsetting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing. So, when I got into Bitcoin in 2016, it was pretty, I mean, it depends how you look at it, late or not late. Some say it's late, others say it's not late, right? But the community was more united for me. It felt until end of 2016, it felt united. And basically, after the hype in 2017, when we got the Bitcoin Cash fork and all this infighting, it seems like it splintered into many different groups, and they are not united. They are fighting against each other, and the vision changed a little bit. And
Yeah.
I find that really sad, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Izzy and I, like my co-founder, were like part of that as well. Like we were also feeling like everything was like fracturing out, but like I think everyone still has the same vision for like what this technology should be. They just have like different notions of how to get there. So like I think there's like still the opportunity to kind of like march forward with like the original vision of like what cryptocurrency could mean for like people, but like yeah, it's really hard, I think, in the current ecosystem with all the so many different chains all competing. Yeah.
I mean, many maximalists believe that there's going to be one currency, one digital currency like Bitcoin dominating the world. I don't think there's going to be one main chain. I mean, the world is too diverse for that. Countries are too diverse. Use cases are too diverse for that. And it's also something when you're working on. You have basically, you said you have a startup, right? Let's talk a little bit about your startup. And it's called Coda, codaprotocol.com. And basically, what is something you could compare Coda to? Is it more like Ethereum? Can you do a smart contract with it? Or what's the purpose of your coin or your
let's see. So so I guess let me just like say like the vision for what we want to do with this. We want to make it so that you can download a whole full node, the whole like effective proof of the current blockchain onto your browser, your phone, and get a full proof of the whole history of the chain, and use that for both programmable money and for like private applications. So I would say like Coda's money is probably a longer term thing, and like the private apps is like the shorter term thing. I think it takes momentum to get there. But let me just explain technically what's going on. There's a lot of thoughts around this. But like basically my co-founder and I were thinking about all this Bitcoin stuff and about all these challenges around block size and decentralization, and we were realizing that you could use ZK snarks to create a proof of the whole chain so that people don't actually have to download all the blocks. They just can download the little proof. And once you're in that world, you don't have to worry anymore about high throughput or a lot of transactions, making the chain unwieldy, because the chain is always the size of this little ZK snark. The ZK snark
how is that possible?
The whole history.
How's that possible? Basically, it's
it's
like,
pretty crazy.
like a hash proving that the history is correct until that point, or how does it work?
Effectively, like, so what a ZK snark does is it says, give me a computation, and I will create a proof that if you ran that computation with these inputs, you'll get this output. And the cool thing is that the proof of that computation is constant size to download and verify. So you could have a computation which operates over gigabytes of data, and it would take like hours to run. But once you make the snark of it, then it's really cheap to check. And then the second part of this is that we can recursively take the previous proof of like the prefix of the chain, and when you add a new block, compute a new proof that says the new block is correct, as is the whole tail. So you don't have to redo the computation every time you make a new proof. You just use your prior proof like inductively to create the new proof. So you can cheaply keep adding proofs onto like the proof chain. But the proof itself at the end backs up the whole history and is only the same size as ever.
Okay. I mean, it's the whole size of the blockchain is going to be basically, it's going to be so small you can just download it on any device, and you can be sure that it's correct. The history is correct. Everything is correct. And what do you hope to achieve with it? Where do you want to go with it?
I mean, the thing that I love the idea of is like everyone in the world like can download this little snark to their phone, to their browser, whatever, and they effectively get a whole proof of everything happening on the chain. So, you know, you can check that, you know, the app you're using, everything has been done since the beginning of time correctly on that app. You can start interacting with that, the system now trustlessly. You can imagine that this is just some like ideal thing out there in the world, and you don't have to like start worrying about, am I dealing with the real state of this thing? Like, who am I trusting to use it? You know, there's none of that. Like, as a developer, you can just write against it. Your clients just like download the proof and can start interacting with it. So like, it just like kind of takes all like these middlemen in crypto and all these scaling challenges and just kind of like, it's complicated, but, you know, throws it all away. And then you just end up with like this little proof that developers can write code against.
Okay. So basically, what you're going to use the blockchain for? You're going to use apps, games. I mean, can it be used as money?
Yeah, so I think in the long term, money is the right direction, both through like the native token and through like coins on top of it. But I think that like I think that Coda is like pretty ideal for that because like it can work from anyone's phone over like a really low internet connection with really high throughput, giving people like optional privacy. There's like a lot of good features that you get out of it, and then like I think that's like kind of optimal for money versus like the current chains I don't think are going to work as money, at least maybe as gold, but not as money. So I think that's like long term we can do that, but in the short term, with snarks we also get privacy and scaling. So if you look at like the things being built on like Ethereum and other chains right now, they're really awesome. Like, but I think it's kind of like more like a playground for these things. Like we can't take DeFi and scale it out to a whole country, for example. It's just not going to happen. But we could imagine doing that on Coda. Coda, like because with Coda we can do the privacy things you would need to give it to like real people, and we can do like the scaling things needed to give it to a larger audience. And
that's something really, I mean, if you look at the whole scaling, I mean, Ethereum is basically, I don't know if it's operating at capacity, but DeFi is pushing the fees up and everyone is trying to get their transaction through, and there are billions locked in DeFi. And it really looks to me that it's hindering Ethereum's growth. You know, I personally think that if they could scale, the use would explode. I mean, it would,
yeah,
it would just go through the roof. And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not that technical, you know, so I can't really see how easy or hard it is to go to a proof of stake, and basically how big can it scale after that? And do you think that's something you can solve with Coda?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the solutions we're seeing right now are like people are taking the mindset that like, okay, layer one's locked in, we're not changing that. We're going to add these layer twos on that will like, you know, band-aid fix things. There's a lot of challenges to that, both like technically and I think for a developer, if you're trying to build on top of a layer two, it's like taking the complexity of building a cryptocurrency, which is already a huge challenge, and like now you have to like interact with layer one and layer two and like whatever chain you use, and you're like really committing to that layer two. It's like a whole thing. So I think there's a lot of challenges there. And what's nice about Coda is it just kind of elegantly solves it at layer one. So like if like a layer two is like plan A, I think that like Coda could be like a plan B sort of to like,
Okay.
if that doesn't work, then Coda can make it happen.
Is there already a coin? Is it listed? How far along the process are you?
We're like pretty far along. So we're like in testnet right now. And I should mention, like, maybe you got this like ideologically, but like I think we think it's really important that like individuals can join the chain in a meaningful way, that like they don't need to like be an ASIC manufacturer. So for people that join during our testnet and start contributing, we're giving out like basically grants to run consensus nodes on mainnet. So like we want to have like massive participation. We want this to be like something that a lot of people can participate in, and that's kind of already happening. I think we're like, I want to say like over like I think almost 1,000 signups for like the latest testnet for like running nodes. Like we've had like a lot of interest, and we love that because that's the whole point. We want to get a lot of people involved. So we're in testnet right now. We're launching towards mainnet later this year. It's like there's only a few testnets left, and then we're going to launch. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
You're going to do a sale or anything? How did you get funding, or how is that working at the moment?
Funding, we raised from like VCs. We're in Silicon Valley, so it's that's like the way.
You just knock on some company doors and you throw around blockchain and scaling, and everyone is throwing money at you.
It depends when you do that. There were times when that was the that was the game, but like no, yeah.
Has it changed anything during those Corona times now? Did it make work harder for you, or how did that affect your business?
Oh, the coronavirus?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to transition everything to remote, of course. That's been like some growing pains, but honestly has been like kind of okay.
Oh.
I think it's like mostly been a challenging for people like personally, like I know I miss like being able to go into the office and like seeing people face to face and just like having lunch with folks. That's like I think a real challenge, like versus just like staying at home all the time.
Sure.
But I think that like it's been kind of up and down. Like initially it was like, oh gosh, like everything's like, you know, there's the initial crash of cryptocurrency and everyone's like, oh gosh, everything's like, you know, collapsing. It's like terrible. Now things have kind of stabilized, and in crypto they're at least pretty good. It's complicated, and there's a lot going on. So it's especially in the U.S. at this time, like the country has not handled it well. So it's complicated here.
Yeah, it's complicated everywhere. I know it's like if you look at the whole world being lockdown and shutdown. I mean, crazy times for sure. I mean, and being in crypto is even more crazy with all the volatility. Do you take any interest in the whole price speculation stuff, or do you just want to build a solution? Is that how do you think about that?
I mean, I think at heart, like I like technology a lot. So like I'm just like about building a solution, but like you can't ignore the you know, that crypto is like a very retail driven speculative market at times. I think perhaps sometimes like for the best, because like it's so early and there's so much variability going on. But I guess like I try to like think about, okay, like I start from like what is like the right solution, and then like because I think that's like the place that like I actually care about, and then we could tack on the, oh yeah, it's like a super speculative early market as like a secondary.
It still is. I mean, prices are going a little crazy with all the DeFi hype and everything.
Yeah.
I guess there are some people. I mean, it reminds me of 2017, the ICO boom. I mean, I personally liked it. You know, you could make money, you could lose money, but these kind of bubbles really help you raise money, help you bring ideas to the market. And sure, lots of things fail, but it's also a great way to grow. So
Yeah,
let's
totally.
see how this next run is going to be. And I'm not sure. Do you think we are in a bull market? Do you think it's going up, or do you think because of the whole economic situation, and now in the US there's the election coming up and all those? I don't know. If you look at the German news, it looks terrible. You know what's happening in the US.
Yeah.
I mean, you always see bad things,
it's
right?
it's so crazy, like the US right now, like yeah. I mean, I think crypto wise, or at least in like a mini bull market, like, you know, I think it could kind of break away either way. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's exciting for crypto at least. Definitely a lot if you know, if you had asked me like, you know, 10 years ago when I was first getting into crypto, I guess I was like a naive high schooler then, but I would have said like that the level of like geopolitical instability that we're seeing right now, like it would never happen, like that things are just going to get better. And like I'm just been blown away by like you know, what's been happening with like the Trump presidency, especially in the last few months with coronavirus and the election coming up. It's like it's like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's more or less a nightmare everywhere. You know, I remember the video of was it Santa Monica Beach, where they pushed sand into the skateboarding park and shit. It's like what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
So many crazy things. Evan, we've already talked for more than half an hour. I know you have to go. I'd love to talk some more. Maybe we can do that when you launch the mainnet, and we can talk again and get some updates from your side and see how things go then.
Yeah, totally. It'll definitely be exciting then. So happy to chat.
If you have time. All right, Evan, thank you very much for the little talk.
All right.
I wish you all the best. And where can we find more information about you and what you do?
Twitter, I think is the best place because Twitter will have links to everywhere else. Twitter, go to Coda Protocol on Twitter. You really want to end up on our Discord because we have a very active community there. People running test nets and talking about snaps and talking about snarks and talking about the whole protocol. So, and all of our development's done in the open as well there. So you want to end up on our Discord, but start with our Twitter. That's where the announcements happen. And
I'm going to put the Twitter link into the description. So if you want to check out Coda Protocol and more what Evan is doing, click on the link in the description. And you take care. You have a great day. It's still early in the US. Here it's
got a whole day ahead of me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close to 9 o'clock here. So it's the day is over. Your day is more or less starting. So I'm talking to you from the future, and I'm going to say buy Bitcoin. No.
Do you know something I don't?
I wish. Okay. All right, Evan. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Talk to you soon, man.